I wholeheartedly believe that Wisconsin should have beaten Oregon this weekend, and had they had subpar quarterback play by Braden Locke, they do walk away from that game. Camp Randall was rocking. We had over 40 recruits in the stands for the game. The defense played out of their mind and basically ended Dylan Gabriel's bid for the Heisman Trophy, and we made him feel uncomfortable unlike any team has made him feel all season long. For the last two offensive drives for Wisconsin football were complete and utter disasters. A delay of game call right after the kickoff leading into a 1st and 15 on a crucial drive with 2.5 minutes left started the drive off in a disastrous way. I was in the stands for the game. I knew the game was over right then and there. Then, Wisconsin's defense gets another key stop, stopping a fake field goal on Oregon, and gets another shot at winning the game. Braden Locke on 1st and 10 takes off for a quarterback scramble. What looks to be a big play, you could see from his eyes, as I think I'm going to be inserting the clip right here, he's not even looking downfield to get even more yards on a crucial drive. He's automatically running out of bounds. He had one defender to beat, and he's not the most athletic quarterback in the world, but if he beats that defender, he's got a wide receiver blocking downfield, and this run could have turned into a 30-40 yard momentous drive that leads to the Badgers at least kicking a game-tying field goal. Instead, Braden Locke throws a pick, ending the game, and ending the Badgers' dreams of upsetting the number one team in the nation, a team they should have won, a game where everybody on the team, except what it felt like Braden Locke, put their bodies on the line and gave it their all. Locke had less than 100 passing yards. He completed, 12 of 18 passes on the night, and the offense just couldn't get it going. They had the one amazing drive right before half where Braden Locke showed what he could do when he has confidence in himself. Then, a illegal man downfield call on what could have been their second touchdown drive leads to them kicking a field goal when the Badgers had all the momentum in the world. But after that drive, the offense went silent, and it led to Phil Longo's firing. I want to talk about the Phil Longo firing, the reaction to Luke Fickell's press conference this week, and talk about where I think the program goes, and talk about some things where a lot of people are angry about the timing of this, but where it makes all the sense. Stay tuned, Badger fans. Let's have a more positive talk about Badger football and what the future could hold for Badger football, because there's not a lot of hope around right now. But with the Phil Longo firing, which I feel for him and his family, these are people, it's right before the holidays, I do feel for them, but are the Badgers going to be back on track soon? Let's talk about that. So Luke Fickell and Wisconsin finally decided to move on from Phil Longo as offensive coordinator. When Longo was hired, there was a lot of excitement from Badger fans, with the Dairy Raid offense seeming like a revolutionary thing for Badger football. This after years of just power run with no real passing game, while having great offensive lines and great running backs. While the talent is still there on the roster, the air raid just never worked for Badger football, and it just didn't feel creative whatsoever. Tensions started to rise towards the end of last season, and tensions this year seemed to really pick up this year. Earlier this year, Longo said, "I'm here to please Luke Fickell," when asked by the press. Fickell wanted more of a running offense, while Phil Longo wanted to air it out a little more. With the firing coming on Sunday, the Monday press conference led to a feisty press conference from everything I've heard, and from what I watched. And I'm going to insert some clips right here with some of Luke Fickell's quotes.
All right, well, obviously I'll start by, talking about and addressing the situation, the change that we're going through, and then hopefully we can move forward onto, a big football game that's coming up and make sure we all get ourselves back into the task that we have at hand. So, as you all know, we've made a change, and Coach Longo will no longer be our offensive coordinator and be with us. This is not an easy thing. Obviously, you guys all understand that. This is a very tough decision, and it's even, one of those things that's incredibly tough, not on everybody involved, but I think first and foremost for Phil and obviously his family too. So out of respect for them, I probably won't go as deep. Never something I ever envisioned doing or wanted to do, and especially doing it when there's still games to be played in a season. And the kids in that locker room, what we needed to do right now was to move forward. And, that's, like you said, that's not an easy thing. It's a really tough situation, right? I mean, we've all understand that, and we've seen that. I'm not going to dive as much into it, but I'll just tell you the basic gist, what I told the team. It's not about play calls. It's not about points scored. It's not about touchdowns. it's moving forward with leadership. And that's, to me, what we have to do and why we're doing it right now. Why does it matter? Right? I mean, the offense will, be run, and those guys will do a lot of things collaboratively together. And I don't think it really is important as to who is calling it. I guess it gives you the ability to point a finger at somebody if that's the case, but it's not one of those things I think is that important.
Looking for in that position for the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I don't want to dive into it, obviously. I do like what we do. I mean, it's not like we want to go back and think we're going to be in 22 personnel. Like, we got to have varieties. We got to be able to do things moving forward. We got to be able to spread the field. But we got to continue to build upon the things that we've done. And that's for what best fits Wisconsin. And what best fits Wisconsin is using the things that you do have. And, I don't think that means you deviate from a ton of different things that we've done. But we know that we got to continue to grow and progress. And
Luke, Phil coached the quarterbacks. How is that position going to be determined in terms of who's going to be mentoring the quarterbacks going forward?
We're getting closer working towards Nebraska talk.
Timeline in your mind when you would like to have the new offensive coordinator in place? Is it kind of go back to that recruiting?
We play on Saturday, and we go to Nebraska, and that's probably the timeline that I'm thinking. This is a Monday. Tuesday's practice is coming up in less than, in 25 hours. So right now, that's where my timeline is. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But don't think I'm not naive to making sure that the program's, the number one thing that's we're making sure we're taken care of.
Luke, with how this played out with Phil, do you have any hesitation moving forward with hiring somebody that you haven't worked with before?
We're back to square one.
But I feel like the press does feel a little butthurt over some of the reactions. Fickell didn't make it personal. He wanted to keep the press conference focused on Nebraska, who they play this week, with a crucial matchup trying to get to bowl eligibility, something that's become a norm for Badger football and expected in Madison, Wisconsin. The old heads are annoyed over the timing of the move, but I have a theory on why Wisconsin chose to make this move now versus waiting towards the end of the season. Now, the University of Wisconsin is a little different, where the university has a rule that you have to post a job for 2 weeks before you can hire someone new. Early signing day is on December 4th. With the decision to make the move this week, and specifically on Sunday, Fickell would be able to have an OC hired by December 1st. If the season ended on Friday the 29th, and you fire Longo then, you risk losing the recruiting class just days before National Signing Day of guys who are choosing to come to Wisconsin. Now, I don't think we see a mass exodus of talent from this recruiting class. I don't know how much Phil Longo, aside from the lock recruitment, really was a part of this recruiting class. But if you waited, you risk losing that and having to repair things during the second signing period. You're still in play for Carter Smith, who visited this past weekend. Do you lose Marbury in this situation? Does Tyler Van Dyke come back? Do you hold on to Eugene Hilton? By making this decision now and having the 2 weeks before National Signing Day and just a few days before National Signing Day, you could say to your recruits, hey, come here. This is our offensive coordinator. You believe in the vision? We're not going back to just a power run and no passing offense. We're going to be moving towards more of a power spread offense. The defense looked great this weekend. You put in a competent offense with some creativity, then things end up working out a little better for Wisconsin. But by waiting towards the end of the season, which a lot of the old heads wanted to do, you then lose that opportunity to sell yourself to recruits with this new offensive coordinator. Now, I don't know if Fickell has a guy in mind, but there are rumors that with this decision coming now, there are some guys you can look at. Some I'm going to talk about are reaches of candidates, while others are more a little bit realistic. Now, the first guy I want to talk about that's more of a reach is Mike Denbrock. He's the current Notre Dame offensive coordinator, but worked with Luke Fickell from 2017 to 2021 when Desmond Ridder was their quarterback, and they made the college football playoff. Some may view this as a step down for Denbrock, leaving Notre Dame to come to Wisconsin, but with the uncertainty of Notre Dame's ability to make the college football playoffs in the future, if they lose 1 or 2 games, then maybe Wisconsin seems like a little better of a landing spot if you want to continue to build up your career. And the biggest question is Wisconsin willing to pay? They paid Longo $1.25 million, making him the highest Badger assistant ever, but not one of the higher assistants in all of college football. I've seen numbers where people are calling for $2.5 million a year for this next offense coordinator. And Fickell is going to need the university to open up the checkbook with this next offense coordinator if they want to hire the right guy. and keep Fickell for the long term. This is not just Luke Fickell's job security, it also is Chris McIntosh, because if Fickell gets hired, I think McIntosh is gone too. So I think McIntosh will be able to get Wisconsin to pay a little more than we're used to seeing. But if you can't get Denbrock, Gino Gadugli is another guy you might look at, and it feels like he's the most likely choice. He's currently Notre Dame's quarterback coach and was originally on staff under Fickell at Wisconsin until Longo arrived, and he left to become the Notre Dame quarterback coach instead. He was the offense coordinator and quarterback coach in 2022 under Fickell. When Denbrock left Cincinnati, he's 41 years old and was on Cincy's staff from 2017 to 2022. He's someone Fickell trusts, and that's going to be important in the next Wisconsin offense coordinator hire. If you want to go the Badger route, you look at Jason Eck. He has Badger ties playing under Barry Alvarez and is a Wisconsin native. He's currently Idaho's head coach with a unique offense. He led the Vandals to back-to-back playoff appearances and is on the verge of making a third straight appearance for the Vandals. He almost upset Oregon earlier this year with Idaho putting up more points against Oregon than the Badgers did, and he knows the Badger way. This, where Fickell feels like an outsider by bringing in a former Badger, it might make the fan base feel a little better, as Badger fans are feeling distrust over outsiders after the way Brett Bielema left for Arkansas when he was a former assistant under Barry Alvarez, but more so the way the Chris Anderson stuff went down. A lot of fans developed a lot of trust issues during that time period. The big name that I see a lot of Wisconsin fans throwing out, though, is Brian Hartline. And he seems like the sexiest name on the list with his recruiting ability and his ability to develop wide receivers, something the Badgers have kind of struggled with under Fickell so far, with numerous drop passes and just not helping out the quarterback when Braden Locke is struggling. But many feel, including Ohio State fans, that Hartline is not ready to be the OC, and that's why they brought in Chip Kelly to kind of mentor the guy. And does Brian Hartline want to leave Ohio State for Wisconsin, which he has no ties to, other than formally working with Luke Fickell? The last name I want to mention before I close this video out is Sean Lewis. Now, I kind of want to try to land Sean Lewis. I think he has a really creative offense, and he has had an offense that's played well no matter where he's gone. He's the current head coach at San Diego State, so I don't know how likely it is that you could bring in a guy like him to step back to an offensive coordinator role after he left Kent State as a head coach to go coach at Colorado as their OC, and was replaced by Pat Shurmur as OC halfway through the season, even though the offense seemed to be playing pretty well. It was the defense that was the issue for Colorado last year. He has an explosive and creative offense that's done well wherever he's gone. He's a former Badger, he knows the Badger ways, and rumor has it he was going to be the offense coordinator under Jim Leonard had Leonard been hired as head coach instead of Fickell. He knows what to expect in Madison. Another name that's being tossed around is Jim Moorhead. I don't see Moorhead leaving Akron to come to Madison, as Moorhead really does not have any ties to Madison. Those are just a few guys that I'm seeing thrown around as the next possible offense coordinator for Wisconsin. What do you think? Who should Wisconsin hire as their next offense coordinator? How do you feel about the firing of Phil Longo this week? And where do the Badgers go next? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. On Wisconsin, thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.